Am I the a-hole for selling my PS5 rather than sharing it with my stepbrothers? Original post. My 15-male mom and dad met and briefly dated while they were both studying at uni. My mom gave birth to me after they had broken up and had sued my dad for child support. I was raised by my mom. It had virtually nothing to do with my dad throughout my childhood. My mom was an international student, and her family cut ties with her due to the circumstances of my birth. Tragically, 2 years ago, I lost my mom to cancer, and thus I was placed under the care of my dad. My dad is remarried and has 2 sons, 5 and 7, with his wife. It wasn't a bad arrangement at first, but we were all essentially strangers. I was given a bedroom to myself and we shared some meals, but other than that, kept to myself. About 10 months ago, I was lucky enough to score a casual job at an aged care facility as IT support. It was stupid easy money as it involves installing and maintaining a dozen or so common PCs used by the residents, plus running basic computing workshops. I ended up accruing a whole lot of disposable income in a short time. Stupidly, instead of just keeping quiet about it, I decked out my room with a new TV, headphone, and a PS5. Obviously, the setup was of great interest to my 2 stepbrothers. Initially, my rule was that they could play the PS5 anytime I wasn't using it, but I would get first dibs if I wanted to play or use my TV. I was also super accommodating by buying an extra controller, which I didn't need, and several kid-friendly games that they wanted to play. I eventually had to change the rule to only play when I was there, because the 5-year-old destroyed one of my controllers through spilling juice on it. This is where the drama started. They whined to my parents, who then ordered me to place the PS5 in the living room. I refused, stating that I had purchased it with my own money. This led to their argument that I have too much money and should contribute rent, utilities, and food money. I called their bluff and said, sure, drop a contract and I'll get a lawyer to review it to ensure it complies with the Family Law Act. My dad then told the boys that he was going to buy a separate PS5 for the boys for Christmas, but the dude is clueless about the global shortage. Finally, last night, after realizing that he had zero chance of buying one for close to recommended retail price, my dad threatened me to either voluntarily gift my PS5 to the boys for Christmas, or he would toss it in the bin while I was at school. I was so pissed that I went on Facebook Marketplace and sold a PS5. The boys found out today and were devastated. I feel real bad because they shouldn't be punished for this crap show. My parents are in their room talking about me, and I'm sitting here in my room. Am I the a-hole? How could I have handled this better? Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Not stay home. You bought it with your own money and aren't obligated to share it. The fact that you did in the first place was very generous given PS5s are like gold dust, and your brothers clearly weren't careful when using it. Not even that. He was willing to continue sharing it as long as they used it as he was home, because his brother broke an $80 controller. Not stay home. Keep saving your money so you can get out of there as soon as possible. Do not let them have access to your accounts, and do not pay rent or bills. If you have somewhere else you can stay, maybe chase those leads. I'm sorry you had to do that, but you were right to. Your father and his wife sound awful. This is important, because they seem to think they have the right to your money already. So if it's a joint account, they may just take what they think they have the right to. If you have a joint account with them, talk to the bank about the issue now and ask what they can do for you. I hope he sounds like he's in Australia, in which case there would be no problem with him having an independent bank account. Now for the first update, December 18. Wow, this blew up overnight. Firstly, thanks to all the kind strangers out there giving me your positive encouragement and support. It's quite humbling that so many of you took time to read my story and chose to provide positive support. Some people were after an update of the situation. I'm at work now, but my stepmom had a chat with me this morning and it was quite positive. She said she didn't know about my existence until right before I came to live with them, and so it caused a huge rift between her and dad. She apologized for projecting that onto me and not being more welcoming. She also didn't know about my dad's threats and told me that it won't happen on her watch. My stepbrothers also admitted to her about the juice incident. She said that she is going to get the boys a Switch for Christmas, and she offered to pay me the difference between RRP and getting a new PS5. I probably won't take the money, but at least it's a step forward. This was the longest conversation I have ever had with her too, by the way. No comments from my dad yet. Lol. To answer some common questions. 1. My bank account is entirely in my name only. Australia. No one else has ability to view or access the balance. I actually don't think my dad's demand for rent was about money. They both earn a good salary. He's just butthurt that I'm not reliant on his money. 2. Yes, I really am 15. Lol. I typed out my post in Word and so that it could be spell and grammar checked. Maybe that's what confused people? 3. I got 27.50 Australian dollars an hour on a casual contract, with additional loading for weekends. The operations manager at the aged care facility is super chill and allows me to schedule my hours around school. I just have a cap that I can't go over. She lets me do my homework on the clock and I get free meals from the cafeteria. If I help the residents on non-facility devices, they usually tip me, and cashiers sometimes cookies. Lol. I've got a fair bit saved up because I don't really have any expenses. 4. I've got a shoebox of documents from when my mom passed. I think my mom's assets is looked after by a trustee firm, which will be turned over to me at 18. The law firm managing the will had previously explained this to me, but I wasn't really paying attention at the time. I've got to still go through everything. 5. I sold PS5 for a tidy profit, even with the cost of the damaged controller. I'm not desperate for one at the moment, so I'll just sign up for a waiting list again so I won't need to take up my stepmom's offer. Thanks again for the love, everyone. Your stepmom sounds lovely. I'm glad you were able to have a chat. You sound very responsible with money. Your dad needs to get over his pride and ego and be proud of you. He also needs to start communicating. To not have told your stepmom about you is really awful. He seems too focused on his image than his family. Good resolution. Of course, your dad is still the a-hole. But stepmom really stepped up and your stepbrothers are just annoying little brothers like anybody else's. Not lying or manipulative, so there's that. They just know that your dad will take up for them. Do try and build a relationship with stepbrothers. Later in life, good relationships are hard to come by, and your stepmom is a really nice person. Amazing update. I'm sorry the last 2 years have been so hard. Your dad is totally the a-hole for not telling his wife anything about having a whole other kid. Now for the second update, December 19. So we've got a gathering with the extended family today. This is the first time I've met any of them due to COVID, and they've all been super lovely to me. My stepmom showed them my original post and they are all getting stuck into dad. My uncle, dad's younger brother, has set up a Reddit account for him, and he's doubling down as he thinks Redditors will take his side when they read his account of it. I'm not going to link or read his post, but people have been telling me it's quite a bloodbath. Now for the final update. I think I just have to do one more to close everything off. There's a lot of emotions running through me right now, so I'm sorry for rambling a bit. Firstly, I'm immensely grateful to all the Redditors who reached out to me to voice your support or to make sure that I'm okay. I'm very touched. Secondly, I got to meet and spend time with my extended family today. There were over 40 of them here. They're a rowdy bunch, but they are amazing. They really made me feel welcome. Some of my cousins are gamers too, so there was an instant connection. In terms of family, it's been mostly mom and I for my whole life, so this is definitely new to me. But my new family were 100% accommodating and were very interested in me. Thirdly, my stepmom turned out to be a champ. One of the first things she did was introduce me and show everyone my Reddit post. It turned into a massive debate where nearly the whole family laid into dad, including my grandparents. At one stage, my uncle, a Redditor himself, pulled me aside and told me that, "Don't worry, mate. Your dad has always been a bit of a stubborn C-word. He'll get over it." Another amazing thing was when my nan said she knew my mom quite well, and we had a great chat about her. I think we broke dad in the process. My dad got very loud arguing with the family, and my uncle somehow trolled my dad into posting on Reddit to tell his side. He's been on his laptop in his study since then for nearly the whole night, glued to the screen. He didn't even come out for dinner. I've chosen not to read his thread, but I do know from other Redditors that he's getting absolutely wrecked. I don't know how this will end, but all I know is that I feel so much better. Whatever happens with Dad, at least I have some amazing family members. Swapped some gamer tags with my cousins, and have reached some common ground with my stepmom. To think, all this started with a single Reddit post. I lack the words to describe how grateful I am. Thank you for your generosity, thank you for your love. I hope everyone out there can be as lucky as me and spend the holidays with their loved ones. Sending you peace, love, and good vibes wherever you are. Now for some interesting twist, we're gonna read 2 posts from the dad concerning this incident to tell his side of the story. For the first one, am I the a-hole for asking my son to share his console with his brothers instead of keeping it in his room? A few days ago, my bias son Jonah, not real name, posted a biased and frankly defamatory post about an incident in my home regarding a PS5. My wife was kind enough to share the post and comments with our entire extended family at our Christmas gathering, so apparently now I'm a huge a-hole. My brother suggested that I post here to set records straight and give people both sides of the issue. Firstly, I never actually intended to charge Jonah rent. His job gives him essentially 100% disposable income purely because he lives in our household. He used this money to deck out his room, buy brand new shoes, buy the latest iPhone, etc., all for himself. I couldn't care less about how he spends his money, but it does set a poor example for my other 2 boys. The last straw was when Jonah set a login password for the PS5. I basically told him that if he's not willing to share, then why should I give him a free ride? My son should be grateful. While we shared DNA, I only dated his mom, May, not actual name, for all of 5 months back in uni. I was very clear with May that I didn't want kids, but apparently consent doesn't go both ways. May put me through legal hell and ended up costing me tens of thousands of dollars over the years in child support, setting my own goals back. Instead of letting Jonah end up in a group home, I stepped up and took him in when May got sick. Instead of gratitude, I constantly have to deal with disrespect and attitude. Because of Jonah, my wife thinks I breached her trust all for something that happened well before I met her. While the boys previously did have access to PS5, I now won't let them play it now that school is finished for the year unless he's home, which he never is. I gave him the ultimatum of either sharing the console or no one gets to play it. In response, he pulls the most passive-aggressive move ever and sold it, so now no one plays it. So listen, how am I the a-hole here? I've taken in this kid into my home, a kid who, by the way, will receive a sizable inheritance in a few years thanks to Mason's estate. I've given him a home, a family, and fund his lifestyle, all at the cost of my own relationship. In return, I haven't asked for a cent, and he won't treat me with respect nor follow my rules. But somehow I'm the giant a-hole who's in the study typing this out, instead of enjoying Christmas with my extended family. Instead of attacking me, I'm hoping people will now give their fair opinion of the situation based on seeing both sides of the story. You're the a-hole. I've given him a home. Newsflash, Dad. That's literally your job. Quit acting like you're doing some damn gift of charity for a kid you created. Reminds me of a time when I was broke and I asked my dad for money. After he gave it to me and I thanked him, he turned to me and said, "Never thank me. No matter how old you get, I'm still your father, and that's what I'm supposed to do. Hence why I spoil my parents like crazy whenever I can." My father has always said he has money in his pocket and a room in his house for all of us no matter what. He learned it from his parents. It's a no-brainer to him. Okay, clearly this hasn't gone down the direction I thought it would. Clearly some of you have issues with comprehension, or just can't be bothered reading my comments fully. I want to be clear. I never threatened to collect rent from Jonah. I don't need his part-time work money or about his inheritance money. I make a very good salary, probably more than the vast majority of people who use Reddit. I simply tried to explain to him that he has all this disposable income because he doesn't have to worry about basic needs. I didn't explain it properly at the time because we were arguing, but my intention wasn't for Jonah to give his PS5 to the kids permanently. I just wanted it to keep in a common area until I can buy another one for the kids. Jonah never told me about the controller. If he had, of course I would have replaced it. That's not an issue. I expected him to not be so selfish to his brothers. Keeping it in his room under password protection is so rude. Jonah gets home really late most days, so my kids are in bed by the time he gets back. I won't debate the nuances about sex and custody. I'm not an idiot. I understand perfect consent and parental responsibilities. I will just say that there is a large gap between consenting to be intimate versus consenting to having a child. I get that our current laws are against me on this one. I didn't intend to lie to my wife. Jonah and May were something way into the distant past for me. Our settlement agreement was very clear in that. I had absolutely zero communication with May or Jonah for at least the 10 years prior to finding about her illness. My child support was at a fixed rate, so I had actually paid her out a lump sum that was supposed to take care of him until 18. It wasn't like it was getting taken out of pay every week. As far as I knew, I was never supposed to hear from Jonah or May ever again. Why would I tell my wife about something like that? Yes, Jonah is a new addition to our family. Yes, I get all of this isn't his fault. I don't love him yet, and to be fair, he hasn't made it easy. I will try to. This thing takes time. You all act like it's easy. And now for another post from the dad that was posted very recently. Am I the a-hole for intercepting and eating my son's food delivery while he was grounded? My eldest son, 16, is undergoing a hormonal-fueled rebellious phase. His behavior consists of things like rolling his eyes when I talk, back-chatting when I tell him to do something, overemphasizing putting on his headphones when I enter the room, and a whole laundry list of other passive-aggressive behaviors. It was his birthday yesterday, but he was going to go out with his friends this weekend to celebrate by paintballing. However, when I got home from work yesterday, I noticed that he had failed to do some chores I had set him, and then did a whole headphones routine when I started telling him off for it. I got so sick of his attitude and that I threatened to ground him for 2 weeks, which means not letting him leave the house except for work. My words clearly cut through his headphones, and it dawned on him that he would not be allowed to go paintballing this weekend. So he took off his headphones and said, "Go screw yourself," and then shut himself in his room. This naturally led to his actual grounding. The grounding didn't seem to faze him as he spends a lot of time in his room anyway. I cut off his devices from our home Wi-Fi, but he works around this by having own hotspot. He refused to come out for dinner last night when my wife asked him to. It has basically barricaded himself in his room. At 10 p.m. last night, he ordered himself a meal via a delivery app. Again, he has clearly been passive-aggressive here, flaunting his independence as he has a perfected lovely meal in the fridge made by my wife. I was still up watching TV, so intercepted the delivery and ate the meal myself. At some point, my son must have come out and seen me, but retreated back to his room without saying anything. My wife thinks I am a major a-hole for eating the meal, but I think it comes part and parcel with the grounding. My wife also thinks I'm too harsh with him due to the grounding. I let him go to paintball if he apologizes. So am I the a-hole here, Reddit? You're the a-hole. Yeah, it's pretty weird that you ate the meal, an act that has no disciplinary value. Other options included putting it in the refrigerator for the next day and telling him not to order out when a prepared meal is available. Did it make you feel like a big man after he cursed at you? Oh, you're the dad who tried to steal his kid's PS5, then got ripped apart by your family and your wife. What did your brother call you again? A stubborn C-word? You're flexing here. You hate that your teenager who you gave a home to, father of the year by the way, is being backed up by everyone around you. So you're acting like, well, exactly like your brother described you. Grow up. You're the a-hole. Right? Like, didn't he even say that he couldn't find it in himself to actually love his own child? Yeah, no sympathy for me. OP, you're the a-hole. Relationship advice. Update. My fiancé wants me to cut my father out of our lives. Original story. I, female 26, lost my biological father when I was 6 due to a car accident. He died when he was 35. 3 years later, my mother met and married my now stepfather, John. He always treated me like I'm his own daughter and adopted me when I was 11. I always call him dad or daddy because for me, he is my dad. He raised me. I am engaged to my fiancé Ashton, male 27. We both visited my parents last week. My father had shoulder pain, so I gave him a quick massage to relieve his pain. The whole evening, my fiancé acted really weird. He was distant and didn't speak much. Even mother asked if he was okay. When we drove home, I talked to him and asked if everything was fine. He told me he felt uncomfortable when I massaged my dad's shoulders and gave him a kiss on his cheek. He wanted me to cut my father out of our lives. I told him, in no way I would do this because he is my father. Ashton responded, "No, he isn't. Your father is dead." Then he added that John was a criminal and pedo for kissing and hugging, not in an inappropriate way, me when I was a child. I started crying and told him to stop the car. He didn't, and we drove home in silence. At home, I packed my stuff in a bag and wanted to leave, but he locked me up in our bedroom. Instantly, I called my best friend who lives 15 minutes away from me. She told me to wait for her. After 15 minutes, she texted me and told me that she was in our garden and got the ladder, which was also there. I climbed with the bag out of the window. As fast as we could, we sprinted to her car and drove away. She parked the car some houses away so my fiancé wouldn't notice. The next day, I had plenty of messages and missed calls from Ashton asking me where I was. I did not answer. Since then, I am staying at a friend's house. Ashton figured out where I was and tried talking to me, but my friend told him to leave. It really confused me why he knew where I was because he did not ask any of my other friends or parents. So me and my friend checked my phone and found a spy app. I have no idea what I should do. I really love Ashton, but he wants me to cut my father out of my life. What do I do? Now for the top advice before reading the update. Run like the wind. This is controlling behavior and will escalate. Do not marry this guy. He wants to isolate, track, and control you. Thank you for your advice. I am planning to get my stuff and leave when he's at work. Please don't go alone. He held you against your will once, he can do it again. Or he can get worse. If you don't have a few big dudes to take with you, you can call the non-emergency police number and ask them for an escort when you go. And then you'll have witnesses and documentation to show that you only took what was yours and didn't damage his property. Don't worry, my friend and her boyfriend will be with me. Please listen to us. What he has done is not only wrong, but potentially a serious crime. He has tried to force you to abandon your family, and by refusing to let you out of the car and by locking you in your room, he is essentially guilty of kidnapping. This man is dangerous, and if you stay with him, he will eventually succeed in cutting you off from your family, and will likely become more and more abusive once he does. Do not marry men that lock you in your rooms. I have never once had to leave my own house on a ladder. Please do not go back to him. Thank you for your advice. I will get my stuff tomorrow when he is at work and leave. And do not marry men who place tracking apps on you. First update. Thank you for your advice. I decided to leave Ashton. Tomorrow, I will get some of my stuff. Clothes and pictures of me and my bio dad because that's one of the only things I have of him when he is at work. My friend and her boyfriend will go with me. I will update tomorrow. Second update. Thank you for all the advice. Anyways, my friend and her boyfriend went to my house. We left my phone at their place, so if he can still track it down, he will think I am there. I thought he was at work because he wasn't home, and I was able to get some of my stuff. When we were leaving, he suddenly arrived. Seems like he was not at work. He tried grabbing me and said he's sorry and wanted to talk, but I ignored him and wanted to go. After he again tried to grab me, my friend's boyfriend held him down and told him to stop. I got in the car, my friend and her boyfriend joined, and we drove away. I also went to buy a new phone and changed my number. I contacted my parents and they were shocked. My dad said he'll talk to one of his friends who is a lawyer and will go to the police to get a restraining order. And now for the full update. Hello, it's been 3 months since my last post and a lot of things happened. First of all, I want to thank everyone who gave me their advice and tried to help me out. Also, there have been people telling me that my story is fake. To you, I can only say I really don't care what you think. I don't gain anything from you believing me or not. In the end, I got a lot of help and I am thankful for it. So like I said, a lot of things happened. First of all, I told my parents about it. They were mad at Ashton. So mad that my dad wanted to go up to my house and beat him up right there on the spot, but he didn't. I told him not to because I didn't want him to get in any trouble. He called some of his friends and we drove to my house together. When we arrived, Ashton tried to touch me, or something. I don't really know what he was trying to do, but he was blocked by one of my dad's friends. While they were watching my ex, me and my dad got most of my stuff. I have no idea how, but Ashton was able to get away from my dad's friend and started throwing things at me and my father. He threw a picture frame at me. Ashton started attacking me and shouting at me. He trashed some of my furniture and destroyed more things. He insulted me and told me he would end me. He even tried to choke me, but was stopped by my dad, who by the way often goes to the gym and is pretty strong. So my dad pushed Ashton to the ground. His friends helped him and we were able to get the rest of my stuff. Of course, we called the police. They arrived and handcuffed him. He started shouting and insulting me again and tried to free himself, but it was clear that he had no chance. He told me I was just making the worst mistake of my life and that I am a witch for leaving him. Yeah, I pressed charges against him and also got a restraining order a bit later. It was pretty easy since I had a lot of witnesses, plus the messages he sent me. While Ashton was in jail, I could have easily changed the locks and thrown him out of the house, but I was, and still am, too scared to be alone in this house. The sad thing is that the house was actually mine. My biological father saved some money for me, and with this money, I bought the house and most of the furniture. There was also only my name written on the papers. I decided to sell it since I never wanted to go there again. Anyways, after this incident, I stayed at my parents' house for a while. I was too scared to be alone and even started going to therapy. Ashton tried to contact me again and again, and even came to my parents' home. He tried to break in at night, but my dad noticed him when the security alarm was triggered. So my dad called the cops, and yeah, they took Ashton with them. Did I say I also sued him for destroying my furniture, which was pretty expensive? Ashton was also fired from his job, obviously, after they were notified by an anonymous person for what he did. These days, I am doing pretty good, even though the current global situation seems bad. I moved into a new apartment in another city and got a new job which also has better pay. I am still in therapy and I think I will not stop going there anytime soon. Thank you again, Reddit, for your advice. Now for some comments. Congratulations on cutting him out. I need to thank the people on Reddit for all the help. Damn. First, I want to say you're a really strong person, and it's amazing that you left him. I imagine he showed no sign of being that obsessive before, so the fact that an innocent massage unraveled his craziness is just mind-blowing. I'm just happy it happened before you were married and with children. Stay safe, you did the right thing. Thank you very much. I am lucky to have my supportive friends, family, and also Reddit. Congratulations on your new freedom. I really hope you managed to heal, but with your friends and family around you, I think the road will be a little easier. It sounds like your dad is amazing. For your new home, it might help you to get security cameras outside and an alarm inside. It'll help you have a peace of mind as you heal. Also, your comment about reporting him to his workplace was hilarious. Now for the last story. Update. I think my boyfriend knows who my stalker is. Original story. I'm female 24, currently in college and working part-time at a Starbucks, and I live with my boyfriend, 25. We've been together for 3 years. I've been working the late shift since the beginning of the summer, and back in July while I was walking home, I noticed that there was a male figure following me. He was wearing a dark gray hoodie, gray sweatpants, and black sneakers. I phoned my boyfriend and spoke to him while I walked and asked him to come meet me, but he told me I was just being paranoid. When I got near my front door, the guy turned around and walked back the way we came. I spoke to my boyfriend about it and he told me I'm just being paranoid. It's still in July, pretty bright out, and people will be able to see someone following me. I thought maybe he was right. As for the following days, the person who followed me wasn't seen. But about 5 days later, while walking home after night shift, he appeared again wearing the exact same clothes. He walked on the opposite side of the street this time, and I even took a picture and sent it to my boyfriend, and he asked why I was just taking photos of people minding their own business. To prove a point, he offered to walk me home after the next shift, and of course the person wasn't there. A few weeks went by, and again, once I left work to walk home, the guy was behind me again. This time, I called my best friend, and she drove straight to me and picked me up. She too noticed the man. On and off, for the weeks following, the man would keep appearing, following me home and then disappearing when I get to my door. I reported it to the police with a detailed description of the person, and they pretty much said thanks. After this, the guy disappeared for over a month. In October, my boyfriend and I had an argument, and I moved into my friend's place for a few nights. He became incredibly controlling, demanding to see my phone, and I even caught him waiting until I fall asleep to go through my phone. At the beginning of this month, as I walked home, I noticed that 2 men were following me as I left work. At first, I didn't think anything of it, but it's around 20 minutes from my place to work, and they were behind me the entire way. I called my boyfriend, and he came and picked me up. I couldn't tell whether one of the men was the guy from back in the summer as it was too dark. Now here's where I need help. 2 of my best friends were at the mall yesterday, November 24, and one of them took a picture and sent it to me. It was my boyfriend, and the man who was following me back in the summer sat in 5 guys together. I didn't believe it was really him, so they took another, and it was very clearly the 2 of them together. When he got home, he told me he had been fixing a friend's car. I didn't question him, and thankfully he didn't go through my phone or anything last night, not that I'm aware of. We've been together for 3 years. He's never physically hurt or touched me, and he has never made any meaningful threats. When we have argued in the past, he has, but he didn't mean it. What do? I am scared to confront him, and my friends are saying to go and stay at their place. I'm so conflicted. Any advice is welcome. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Run as fast and as far as you can. Please visit the website and use their resources if you need help getting out. Thank you for the link. He's having friends of his follow you to see if you're cheating or not. It's not really about her cheating. It's about scaring her and making her more reliant and dependent on the boyfriend, possibly to prevent a breakup. Get out. Freaking run. Worry about everything else later. Collect your important stuff and do not go back. And please don't let him find out. Don't even take anything if you can help it. Wear all the clothes you want like Joey and friends, and stuff pockets with jewelry or other important stuff because I'm sure he will have people watching you. Update. Thank you all so much for your support and advice. Thank you all for helping me come to my senses. I can't believe I have let myself get so deep into this. He left the house not long ago, and I plan to go to my friend's house, but there has been an SUV parked outside with its engine and lights on. I'm not sure if it's related, but I don't want to raise suspicion, so I've made a plan with my friend and I'm out of here at the next opportunity, be that later tonight or tomorrow morning. Thank you all so much. I will update you when I can. Sorry I can't reply to you all individually. I am deleting the Reddit app whenever he is around, so I don't really get a lot of time. I feel like I'm in jail. I'm scared to even go near the windows. I have no idea what I'm going to do about college or work. I'll have to cross that bridge later on. You're all wonderful people. And now for the latest update. I want to thank everybody who reached out to me to offer help. I moved out late on the night of that post, with the help of my friends and the local police department, who personally stood next to me as I packed up a few belongings and left. I wish I could say the problem was resolved. The SUV I mentioned in the update was swiftly moved on by the police officers. I completed a police report, the additional details from which were added to my original report from back in the summer. The police confirmed with me that I had a safe place to stay, and that was that. I have been staying with a trusted close friend for the past few days. I haven't left the house. While she has been working, I've remained in bed for large parts of the day. I am freaking out, and some of the comments left on my posts and messages sent to my inbox have driven my paranoia and anxiety through the roof. I realize now the reality of the situation I am in. This morning, December 2, my friend left the house to drive to work to find all of her tires had been slashed. It was naive of me to think that the problem wouldn't follow me to my friend's house, just a few blocks from where I lived with my boyfriend. And I'm even more frustrated with myself that I've now gotten my friend involved in this. I've been freaking out all day. My friend has remained home all day. And despite reporting this to the police, I don't think there is much they can do. I want to get out and leave. My brother has insisted on driving to pick me up, but I'm afraid that will just lead to more issues. I'm in no position financially to be able to get advice on this, and many of the well-known help groups I have reached out to, many of which were sent to me by Redditors, have been little to no help up to this point, offering generic advice that was incredibly patronizing. I've been told that a restraining order at this point is out of the question, as he personally has not stalked, actually attacked, or threatened me with violence. I'm running on fumes. I have no idea what to do. I feel like my only option is just to run away back home, leaving behind my friends to deal with this mess, leaving behind college, leaving behind my job. He wins. I really don't know what to do at this point. I've run out of options. Thank you all for your advice, messages, and support, truly. Now for some closing advice. Honestly, leaving to heal and figure out what you want your next steps to be isn't actually a terrible idea. Trying to go on like things are normal just isn't tenable. It's totally reasonable that you're burnt out and exhausted and need a break. Take a semester off and go from there. Can you get mental health help/counseling through your school while you're there? I just read your original post. You are so strong. You can do this. File another report. Put cameras on your friend's house. See if there is somewhere else you can stay. Turn location off on your phone and all your apps and change all of your passwords. Have a buddy system with your friends where you can send them your location whenever you are alone. There are apps that do this. Have a check-in system where once every few hours you check in with someone safe. Write down anything and everything that happens with dates and times. Seek professional advice. Maybe hire a private investigator to trail them and get you the evidence you need to get restraining orders. I think you should take your brother up on his offer. Take a semester off to recover. There's no shame in that. A lot more people do it than it seems. He only wins if you give him the attention he's seeking. Like if you contact him, for example. Just file any reports you can and leave it at that. Cut him out of your life. That's the first step to healing. You win by staying alive. Since you're the one he's fixated on, if you were to leave, I doubt it'd bother the friends anymore, that there'd be any mess anymore. As much as it stings to feel like you have to retreat, think of it this way. Some abusive, controlling guys can turn into the equivalent of rabid dogs. You may hate that you have to run away from it. That's so unfair that you're the one who has to retreat when you weren't doing anything wrong. But are you just going to hang around and wait for it to rip your leg off? You can transfer to another school. You can get another job. You don't get another life. Update. Am I the a-hole for not inviting my fiancé's ex to our wedding? Original post. I, female 26, have been with Henry, male 36, almost 37, for 5 years. We are engaged and currently planning our wedding. A little background. Henry is the youngest child and his mother really wanted a girl. Because of this, Henry grew up feeling despised by his mom, who openly says hurtful things, like how he was a disappointment from the start or how she never got the daughter she wanted. Despite this, instead of going no contact with her, Henry has been trying very hard to win her love. Henry had a long-term ex, female 32, who is very close with his mother. She became the daughter his mother always wanted. However, his ex cheated on him with a coworker and left him. After 2 years, Henry and I met. Eventually, the ex wanted to get back together with him, but he said no and blocked her. Despite this, she and his mother remain best friends. His mother still invites her to family functions, and my fiancé and I just ignore her. His mother doesn't like me and believes I'm the reason she can't have her preferred daughter-in-law. My fiancé has explained many times that he would rather stay single forever than get back with his ex. So, even if I didn't exist, he wouldn't be with her. Yesterday, my mother-in-law asked how many guests she could invite to our wedding. I told her that since my parents could invite 8 to 10 people, she could do the same. She thanked me, but an hour later, she smiled and said, "Well, we have one yes already," referring to my fiancé's ex. I told her that was very inappropriate, since we aren't friends with her. She responded by saying that it's her guest list and none of my business. Then she said I'm insecure because the ex is the whole package and that I'm just a rebound girl. Henry told his mom to stop and ask her to leave. Once she left, he asked if I could be the bigger person and let her have this, as he really wants his mom to be at the wedding. He suggested that if inviting his ex would keep his mom quiet, we should just ignore her. Am I the a-hole for not wanting her there? P.S. We are mostly paying for the wedding ourselves, with some help from my dad. Mother-in-law hasn't contributed. Now for the top comments before reading the updates. I mean, you could go a couple of ways with this. 1. Disinvite mother-in-law and her entire guest list. 2. Ask fiancé to get a spine because no way are you having his cheating ex at your wedding. 3. Let ex come to the wedding but thank her during her speech for cheating on your now husband, because without her being a cheating whore, you would have never met your husband. I would choose 3, but I'm a petty a-hole. Not a-hole. There's 0 chances of him doing 1 or 2, so I either have to cancel the wedding or choose option 3. Not a-hole. Your fiancé is a big a-hole. If you marry him, this will be your future, unless he grows a set. You will be third after his mom and the ex. Is this how you want to live? I suggested therapy regarding his relationship with his mother.
He thinks we just have to accept her the way she is. Oh dear girl, please don't marry him. What happens when y'all have kids if that's the plan? She likely won't like them, and if they are boys, she will treat them just as horrible as her own son. Are you going to allow it? Seriously, don't get married. Or at least pause the wedding until you both are on the same page about handling his mom. I just texted him that we need to have a talk when you get home. I'm going to cancel the wedding at this point. I'll post an update after my talk with him tonight. Now for the first update. Thank you so much for the comments and DMs. I had a calm talk with Henry and explained how I feel disrespected by his mom's words and actions. While I can't control who she associates with, it is very disrespectful that she invites her ex to all the gatherings, and that the two of them constantly pick on me. Henry acknowledged this, but said that's just how his mom is. I told him that it's best we cancel the wedding at this point because I want our wedding day to be a happy, memorable occasion, not one filled with drama and stress. I added that his mom is going to ruin this day, and that he's just going to accept it as usual, which I can't tolerate. I told him I won't marry him until he sets some boundaries with his mother. This situation is ridiculous. Henry went on about how he can't cut his mom out of his life because she sacrificed so much raising him and his brother as a single mom. But he admitted he doesn't know how to handle her either. I told him I can't make that decision for him, but I'm going no contact with his mom. I suggested that maybe therapy could help him realize how abusive and toxic his relationship with his family is and help him decide what to do with his life. I also said I won't attend any more gatherings. He went quiet for a while. Then he called his mom on speakerphone to tell her that the wedding was canceled. She went on, saying he finally did the right thing by dumping that whiny witch, calling me insecure and controlling and saying it was a miserable relationship. Henry kept interrupting her, saying, "Mom, stop." But she didn't care. In the end, he told her, "Mom, we are not breaking up. She's here and heard everything. She canceled it, not me, because you kept disrespecting her." His mom screamed, "That manipulative little witch set me up," and started ranting again. Henry then told her that he needs some time to think, and it's best if she gives him some space, then hung up. He's spending today helping his brother with some renovations, and I'm home alone. Hopefully, my next update will be less depressing. Wow, sounds like things got intense between you and Henry's mom. I'm glad you stood up for yourself and that Henry supported your decision to cancel the wedding. Remember, prioritizing your own happiness and well-being should always be a top priority in any relationship, even if it means taking a hard stance. It's clear that Henry still loves his mom deeply, but it's important for him to learn to set healthy boundaries and work through his feelings, without resorting to verbal abuse towards you. Keep us updated on how things unfold. Take care and stay strong. He needs to figure it out. He needs to grow a spine. Holy crap. If that outburst couldn't solidify how awful his mother really is, nothing ever will. I will never understand why some sons think they need to pay their single mothers back for their sacrifices and personal happiness. Raising our children is why we have children. When we do it right, it's not a sacrifice. It's a privilege and a pleasure. Some single mothers raise their children as an extension of themselves, or become emotionally incestuous towards their sons. As a result of this toxic relationship, the child grows up reliant on the mother and feel like they can't escape. It's the same case with how many people go back to their abusive partner. Over time, it becomes the only thing they know, and their brain becomes addicted to it sadly. I'm glad you stood your ground. This is no way to begin a marriage. You're already miserable, so just imagine how much worse things would have gotten if you proceeded with a wedding. Anyway, I truly do hope Henry seeks therapy. It's clear that he has a lot to unpack, and you are not the person to do that for him. I commend you for recognizing that and expressing it to him. I wish you both the best. I don't want to make him to go no contact with her. If I make the decision for him, he will resent me. Hopefully he comes up with a solution, or we have to go separate ways. Sigh. The minute his mother spoke like that about the woman he loves and he didn't say, "F off, Mom, we're done here, and I've had it with you. Until you can behave differently towards my future wife, you and I are done." But he didn't. He doesn't need time to think. He needs time to man up. I don't think he's going to part ways with his mom for you, or any woman, ever. You are talking about a man who never raises his voice or swears. Lol. When he gets really upset, he just stays quiet. I'm the firecracker in our relationship, and joke that his mom broke him because he was not allowed to show frustrations or anger or any emotions. He usually stays quiet, then eventually starts talking. I'm waiting to see what he has to say eventually. Now for the second update. It's 6 a.m. and I've been crying all night. He broke up with me. He ignored all my texts yesterday, and it was late when I finally texted his brother to ask if he was okay. His brother said, yeah, he left 2 hours ago to give his ex a ride, and then come home. I asked his ex was there, but he didn't reply. When he finally came home, he told me to sit down because we needed to talk. He said, I've thought about our situation and I think we should end it. He said, today I hung out with my family, and even his mom and ex came over. They all told me that by me going no contact with his mom, it was going to be so awkward and that they'd be stuck in the middle. He said, when you weren't there today, I enjoyed my time with my family. There was no tension and I didn't have to worry about you being upset. I asked him, why did it take you 2 hours to drop off your ex? Did you sleep with her? He told me I was being ridiculous and that he was just talking to her. He accused me of being controlling and insecure and said I'm isolating him from his friends and family. I asked him again, so nothing happened? He danced around it, but eventually admitted we fooled around, but that's it. I told him I couldn't believe what a pathetic, weak man he is, letting his mom convince him to ruin everything, and next is getting a beat from his cheating ex. We ended up arguing and he went to sleep. I cried all night. Today I'm going to call my dad and ask if I can stay with him. When his cheating ex cheats on him again, he will get karma. You are on the winning end. You cut loose a cheating a-hole and his crappy family. Now it's time to find yourself a real partner. He will be stuck in the toxicity of his family and his ex. He will probably get back together with his ex, and she will inevitably cheat on him again. His mommy will continue to try and push them back together because she'd rather control her son and see him miserable than be accepting of any other partner. I know it hurts now, but in the long run, you will feel a sense of relief in not having to deal with his mom and his ex. Take time to heal from the trauma he and his family causes and go find your happiness. If he can do what he did today and just go to sleep like nothing happened, completely unfazed by the pain he's caused, then he's a cheating POS and not worth your time. You deserve so much better. I hate him so much. He had the audacity to make me the problem and calling me controlling, insecure, while he was out there fooling around with his mom's mini-me. I'm going to move soon anyways for my grad school. I never want to listen to his BS ever again. To be honest, he did you a favor. I know being cheated on sucks, but it gives you something to hate him for and move on from him. You don't need this crap. You have a great opportunity to start fresh for grad school, and you're still very young. So get through the hurt now and literally move on, because he isn't worth any of your brain power thinking about. OP, please go get tested. I definitely will do that. Next story. Am I the a-hole for canceling my fiancé's credit cards and throwing him out after discovering he was cheating on me with my best friend? I, 32 female, have been with my fiancé Jake, 34 male, for 5 years. We got engaged last year and I've been covering most of our expenses since I earn a lot more. I even added Jake to my credit cards to help him out. My best friend Emily, 31 female, and I have been close since college, and she's been like a sister to me. Jake and Emily got along well, and the three of us hung out often. But a few weeks ago, I noticed Jake acting weird. Being secretive with his phone, taking calls in another room, and constantly texting. I couldn't shake the feeling something was off. One night, while Jake was asleep, I checked his phone. What I found shattered me. Explicit messages between him and Emily, plans to meet behind my back, and even talks about a future together. I felt utterly betrayed by the two people I trusted most. The next day, while Jake was at work, I canceled all his credit cards, removed him from our joint account, packed up his stuff, changed the locks, and left a note telling him never to contact me again. When he found out, he blew up, accusing me of being cruel and vindictive. Emily hasn't said a word, but I've cut off all contact with her too. Now, I'm starting to wonder if I overreacted by going nuclear. So, am I the a-hole for cutting Jake off financially? kicking him out, and cutting off my best friend after finding out they were cheating on me? Now for the comments. You're definitely not the a-hole. Jake and Emily betrayed you in the worst way. Cutting him off financially, kicking him out, and ending the relationship were completely justified. You acted to protect yourself after their massive betrayal, and your response was appropriate given the circumstances. He is just upset because you will not be paying or helping him with anything. He wanted his cake and wanted to eat it too. It is very obvious because your best friend said nothing to you. Good luck. Sounds like you wanted OP's cake and to eat Emily's too. You did not overreact. They're vile and disgraceful. They would have gone no contact with you once he was in a position to leave you, probably after he squirreled away enough of your money to do so. She's not a friend. Honestly, the saying with friends like these who needs enemies is fitting. I suggest seeing a therapist because for you to question your actions tells me you need to build your self-respect and self-worth. Please don't look back and move on and up. Not the a-hole. Thank you. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother's fiancé the truth about why our family doesn't like her? So I, 28 female, have a younger brother, Mike, 26 male, who got engaged to his girlfriend, Rachel, 25 female, about 6 months ago. From the outside, Rachel seems like a nice enough person. She's polite, friendly, and gets along with most people. But here's the thing, our entire family cannot stand her, and it's not for the reasons you'd think. It all started when she met our family for the first time. My parents have a pretty quirky sense of humor and we all tease each other a lot. It's all in good fun. But Rachel took everything super seriously. She'd get offended at harmless jokes and would sulk whenever someone teased her, even in the slightest way. We thought maybe she just needed time to get used to us, but it only got worse. At every family gathering, she'd find a way to make everything about her. If someone talked about their job, she'd jump in with a story about how hard her work is. If we were sharing funny childhood stories, she'd cut in to talk about how tough her childhood was, even though we were just joking around. She even tried to change our traditional holiday plans because they didn't fit her vibe. The final straw came when she tried to improve my mom's cooking by adding her own spices to a dish at Thanksgiving. My mom's a great cook, and this did not go over well. Rachel acted like she was doing us a favor, but it was really just insulting. After months of this, Mike finally asked me why our family was being distant with Rachel. I was honest and told him that while we all try to like her, she's been stepping on everyone's toes since day one. I mentioned how she doesn't seem to respect our family's dynamic and how her behavior at family gatherings has been pretty off-putting. Well, Mike told Rachel everything I said, and she lost it. She called me crying, saying I've ruined her relationship with our family and that she doesn't feel welcome anymore. My brother is now furious with me, saying I should have just kept my mouth shut. My parents are staying out of it, but they don't disagree with what I said. Now, Rachel is demanding an apology, but I'm torn. I was just trying to be honest with my brother, but now I feel like I've caused a huge rift. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother the truth about why our family doesn't like his fiancé? Am I the a-hole? Nope, you're not the a-hole. You were honest with your brother when he directly asked why the family was being distant with Rachel. It's not like you went out of your way to bash her. You simply explained why her behavior has rubbed everyone the wrong way. Rachel's constant need to make everything about her, her sensitivity to harmless teasing, and that whole Thanksgiving cooking fiasco were legitimate reasons for the family's frustration. If she's upset, it's because she didn't want to hear the truth, not because you did something wrong. Your brother might be mad now, but he asked for honesty, and you gave it to him. So, not the a-hole. You were just trying to clear the air. I mean, the teasing can be hard to interpret what's friendly/normal level of a family's teasing when you are the outsider. So that, I would have advised not making her a target for the first while, but allow her to be exposed to the normal levels and see how she responded when she wasn't the target. You know, to gauge her tolerances. But everything else, she's kinda out of line. We didn't send the new family members into the murder basement for the first 6 months. He asked why you and your family didn't like her and then went and told her. That's on him. However, your reasons for not liking her are weak at best. Not everyone jokes around like you all clearly do, and in my opinion, the worst thing she did was change your mom's cooking. That would piss me off too. She sounds more like she was trying to fit in with telling stories like you all were. This is your brother's girlfriend, and the fact you all seem to have a problem with her is just going to push him away. You really want that? Who cares? Her brother sounds stupid.
First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not letting them plan a birth in my tub? I, 28 male, own my own place and suffer extreme pain in my back and my right leg. I bought and had installed essentially jacuzzi in my master bedroom as a tool to help relax and use it regularly. My brother and his wife were pregnant and asked if they could use it because they wanted to do a water birth. No idea if that's what it's called, but they have no bathtub in their place and asked to use my jacuzzi, saying they'll clean it out. To be honest, I know it's the miracle of life, but it makes me so uncomfortable to think of birth in my relaxation tub. I told them absolutely not, and they were furious, saying that it's selfish to deny her this. She went into labor yesterday, and they called to ask if they could come over and use it, and I told them again, no, and turned my ringer off. She gave birth at the hospital and demanded I need to pay half the bill that she'll get, but I just told them to screw off. They're now both calling me the a-hole, and so are our parents who live over the other end of the country. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top judgment. Did you make half the baby? No? Then there's no reason for you to pay half the bill. Some people. Not the a-hole. Nobody's entitled to your things, not even when pregnant or giving birth. I wish I could upvote this more than once. And the jets are impossible to clean. I have given birth. It's messy. And good for you for not allowing them to use your tub with jets. Ew. It really kills the relaxation vibe when blood, feces, amniotic fluid, and assorted afterbirth particles congeal in your pipes. Not the a-hole. The miracle of life is a miracle, but it's also not at all sanitary. I can't even imagine trying to get all of the pipes clean after something like that. It sounds like you very clearly told them no, and they didn't listen and didn't make other plans. That's on them, not you. You were not responsible for any bills. How entitled. I can't even imagine trying to get all of the pipes clean after something like that. I had the same thought. Even with just water, if you don't blow the air tubes out, it's mold city. Not a hole. You do not want a birth going on in your jacuzzi tub. I had a home water birth, and trust me, they get messy. A jacuzzi tub isn't even suitable for a birth. They're too hot for one, and not deep enough for another. Tell them to buy or rent a birthing pool like the rest of us. Exactly. A jacuzzi is the wrong sort of tub. Could have set sister-in-law and the baby up for a nasty infection. What is fine if you have intact skin is not when everything is open up in a birthing situation. Sister-in-law is straight up wrong. And this doesn't even get into OP not wanting to contaminate her tub with that much blood and bodily fluids. Not an a-hole, and wow. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not getting over my sister-in-law calling child services? There's a lot of details I could go into, but I'll try to keep it brief. I, 34 female, cut my sister-in-law, 34 female, out of my life and my kid's life after she called Child Protective Services on me and my husband, 35 male. She made certain accusations against my husband and I, and told them that my house was gross. None of it was true, and DCFS went on their merry way after briefly investigating us. She admitted calling. She didn't even apologize, and said she'd made the right call. I told her she should have at least asked us why our baby was so small, for example, but she said we would have just lied to her because we had previously lied about my oldest child being conceived before we were married. I told her I never wanted to talk to her again, and that she was never going to see my kids again. My husband's family all told her she made a bad call to not at least ask us, or even them if she thought we'd lie about the things she claims she noticed. Sister-in-law doubled down, and the whole family wrote it off as her just needing to cause a drama, unfortunately at our expense. I haven't talked to her since. She asked me to coffee a few times over the years, and I said no. My husband mostly stayed no contact with her as well, but did get lunch with her once, during which she defended herself and told him how dramatic and ridiculous I was being. Husband, kids, and I moved across the country, and it hasn't really come up in like 6 years. Being accused of such things by a family member gave me some lasting anxiety, and I panic if someone comes over and the house is messy or the kids have a cut or bruise. But I don't, like, sit and stew about how awful my sister-in-law is or anything. It's been several years now. The baby in the store is now 10, and my mother-in-law just moved in with us. She video chats with my sister-in-law, and I requested that she keep the video chats to her own bedroom and not carry her phone around the house, give sister-in-law our address, or pull my children into the calls to say hello. My husband doesn't feel like this is necessary, but understands the boundary I've drawn here and backs me up. Mother-in-law keeps pulling my kids in to say hello to their cousin, my sister-in-law's child, despite being asked not to. Mother-in-law says I'm being ridiculous, holding on to this grudge for so long, and that I really need to let it go and let my sister-in-law back into my husband's life. I've never told my husband he can't talk to his own sister. I will not talk to her, and I don't want her near the kids, but he can do whatever he wants. She doesn't ask to video chat with him, so I don't know why my mother-in-law tried to frame it that way. I think it's possible I'm the a-hole for not breaking my zero contact resolution, just because it's been so long. But she hasn't changed personality-wise at all, and I don't think it's unlikely she'd pull that stuff again, just for the drama factor. Mother-in-law insists she's changed, and I need to give her another chance. Am I the a-hole for not getting over it? Edit. Because this has come up a lot. I do not mind if my children get to know their cousin. The problem is that the video chat is never just the kids. My sister-in-law is always there, facilitating the interaction because her kid is 5 and just as likely to hang up or drop the phone in the toilet as she is likely to chat. When the kiddo gets bored after a minute or two, she hands the phone to my sister-in-law, who then chats with my kids. That's the part I'm not okay with. They can talk to their cousin, but my sister-in-law ruins it every time, and therefore they can't really talk to their cousin. If I didn't feel like video chatting with her cousin put our family in legitimate danger, I would not object. I have no desire to punish a 5-year-old because her mother is Satan's bride. Not a hole. Ask mother-in-law if she would like the zero contact expanded to include her as well. She can't be allowed to keep pushing without consequences. I'm honestly so confused here though. Why did a sister call CPS? Is it a thing to call CPS when the child is small? What was the actual truth about the baby? Was it some health issues? I feel like there are so many gaps in the story. It sounds so vague. It's like Opie talked about everything around the plot, except the plot itself. I'm not trying to be nosy here, but could someone explain it to me? Am I missing out on something? Not a hole. The way I see it is mother-in-law has 2 options. 1, respect your boundaries. 2, move out. Mother-in-law can move in with sister-in-law, not the a-hole. She should have at least asked us why our baby was so small. What? Why should CPS get involved when a child is small? Anyway, you have a reasonable line since what sister-in-law pulled could have gotten your family in a lot of trouble. She clearly likes to cause drama, and you and your husband made a joint decision to cut her out. It doesn't really matter what your mother-in-law thinks of your boundary, but my husband doesn't feel like this is necessary. Have a talk with your husband about this, why he wants to move the line he and you set together. After clearing things with him, present a united front to your mother-in-law and tell her of your decision and ask her to respect it. If she doesn't and keeps violating your boundaries, then kick her out. She accused us of starving the baby, among other horrible accusations. The baby was 4 months old and really was worrying small. We were at the pediatrician 2 to 3 times a week. We were syringe feeding her, having breast milk shipped to us from another state. It was a nightmare, and having DCFS up our butts when I was trying to keep my baby from being hospitalized because she refused to take a bottle was not what I needed. But yes, everyone was concerned about the baby, and a call to DCFS would have been legit if we weren't doing anything about her smallness. Had she asked us about the welfare of the baby, we could have explained, but she reported us instead. My husband told me that he doesn't think it's necessary to set this boundary with his mother's video chats. He always respected my request that his sister not to be allowed around the kids, but I don't think he ever liked it. He wants his sister not to be a jerk, but also recognizes the reality. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for evicting my late son's girlfriend from my house? My late son, 43 male, and I were estranged for a very long time, probably around the time he was 25, greatly in parts because of his on-again, off-again drinking problems. Around 2 years ago, we reconnected. Alcoholism had ravaged his life and his body, and he had been out of work for close to 8 years. His girlfriend, 45 female, and him had 3 daughters, 10, 8, 3, that he never told me about. But the store she was a manager at closed, so she was now out of work too. They were going to get married, but he couldn't afford a ring. They were soon evicted from their apartment and had no place to go. I have a house that I bought in cash 5 years prior, so I let them move into it around a year ago. They offered to pay rent, but after the first 2 months, they said they were swamped with medical bills for my son and still paying their eldest daughter's hospital bills for childhood leukemia. Around that time, my son confessed that he had advanced liver cirrhosis. I tried to get his girlfriend to get him to stop drinking. She would yell at me and sit down and cry when my son was in the middle of vomiting black bile with his entire body so yellow. She'd ramble on about how she spent 20 years with him and cannot stop hoping that he'll pull through and they'd get married and be a happy family. I had to stop visiting after that, mostly because soon after their eldest hysterically called me and said her dad didn't recognize her anymore, and I realized his mind had gone. My son finally died of cirrhosis 2 months ago. His girlfriend started wailing in the hospital and saying a lot of mean things to me and about my son in general, saying she wasted her youth with him and who was going to love her now. The house was falling into disarray as his girlfriend did nothing but cook for her kids and stare aimlessly at job postings. She's cold to me every time I come in, and the kids would be as well. While I feel for her, I always thought my son moving in was a temporary situation, and that's what he agreed to as well. I was thinking of putting the house up for sale for a while now, and in the meantime, my girlfriend's twin brother needed a place to stay when he starts his MBA in the fall. He was a property manager in college, so he agreed to get in an optimal condition for buyers. When I had my lawyer send notice to her that I needed her to move out, she called and said that she could not believe I was being so cruel to a single mom. It's been a month, and when I gave her the chance to move again, she said to have some heart and hung up even though she can't pay rent. I had my lawyers file an eviction complaint and had her served a couple days ago. She called me screeching about how I was a bastard for trying to make room for my girlfriend's twin and sobbed, saying where would she go with 2 evictions on her record? Am I the a-hole? She's 45 years old and not my responsibility. Now for the top comments. This is a rough situation. And first, I am sorry for your loss. His girlfriend started wailing in the hospital and saying a lot of mean things to me and about my son in general, saying she wasted her youth with him and who was going to love her now. She chose to stay with your son for 20 years knowing he was an alcoholic. She knowingly put herself into this situation by not seeking help or leaving during that time. I think this really sucks, but mostly for your granddaughters. It doesn't seem like you even acknowledge them as part of your family, referring to them as her kids. They are your son's kids too. I'm going to go with everyone sucks here. It's horrible your son died and left your grandkids without a father. It sucks that his girlfriend is struggling to care for them and is being rude and obnoxious instead of being proactive. And it sucks that you, after writing your son off years ago, are not able to realize you have an opportunity to help your family still, because you don't acknowledge them because of issues their father had. Everyone sucks here seems like the most reasonable answer here. It sounds like the son and girlfriend were dodging responsibility, covering up and making excuses for a long time. Meanwhile, letting their kids grow up in a household with a severe alcoholic. I've seen what addicts can do to children, and I also know that you can't force an addict into treatment until they want to go, as one other commenter said. Still, I fault OP for being so callous and detached after his son passed, and for leaving the kids in such a situation. I mean, his oldest granddaughter called freaking out that her father couldn't even recognize her, and OP's response was to quit visiting. He was probably the most stable person in those kids' lives, and he just noped out when the situation got too bad. You're not just evicting his girlfriend, though. You're evicting his 3 children, your grandchildren. If you're fine making your grandkids homeless, I guess that's your choice, but it's a pretty damn harsh one. I had to stop visiting after that, mostly because soon after their eldest hysterically called me and said her dad didn't recognize her anymore, and I realized his mind had gone. Doesn't this mean you should have visited more to support your grandchildren? Your oldest grandkid has leukemia. How is she going to stay in treatment if she's homeless? You can legally do whatever you want, but I think you're the a-hole. 2 months? The ink isn't even dry on his death certificate, and you're kicking out his wife and children. I hope you don't like those kids, because I can guarantee that if you do this, they might never talk to you again. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband that his own behavior is why our son doesn't show him physical affection, and I won't force him to? My husband and I have a 6-year-old son, Sam. Sam is super affectionate to me because I am super affectionate to him. For practically his whole life, we've had cuddle time every night. I tuck him in and give him hugs and kisses. I put him on the bus in the morning and kiss him goodbye. And when he doesn't feel good, I'll let him curl up with me on the couch and hold my hand. So it's not uncommon for him to randomly tell me he loves me or come plant a kiss on my forehead while I'm just sitting down. This is just how we've always been with each other. By contrast, my husband isn't a very touchy-feely person, and therefore, our son doesn't show him the same affection. Don't get me wrong, my husband is a great father and Sam loves him. But he shows his love with tickles and wrestling, and Sam climbs all over him like a human jungle gym. That's their kind of love. Today, Sam wasn't feeling well, so I kept him home from school and we cuddled. When my husband came home, he kept trying to cuddle with Sam as well, but he only wanted me. This made my husband feel bad, understandably, and said that it looks like Sam loves me more than him. I told him that's not true at all, but that kids simulate the behavior that they experience. And since husband isn't affectionate most of the time, there are definitely some times where he is. Sam isn't affectionate back because he doesn't associate that behavior with his father. I told him that Sam shows him love when they goof off with each other. My husband said that I'm making him sound like he's a bad father, and that I should force Sam to give him hugs and kisses. But I refused, because I think Sam has the right to choose who he is physically affectionate with. He apparently vented to his mom and sister, who have both taken his side. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I suspect, based on your post, that I'm old enough to be that man's mother. So pass this on to him from me if you think it will help. Your son was not put on this earth to make you look good. You were put on this earth to raise him and care for him. If you screw up doing that, you own it. It's not a little boy's job to duct tape his daddy's best dad ever poster. Your son was not put on this earth to make you feel good. Taking care of your feelings is not his job. You are grown up. You don't like that you get what you give? Suck it up. You screwed up. The next time your son looks like he just needs company, offer him company. Just hanging out, doing stuff together. Accept it if he says no. Don't try to put your hurt feelings on him. If he falls down and skins his knee while he's with you, ask him if he wants a hug. Again, accept no. Do little, kind things for him like that, and he may grow to understand that dad also can be a source of mutual affection. Or you may have already set the pattern of your interactions for the rest of your lives. And if that is how it is, you live with it. And stop whining to your mommy about it. Good grief. Signed, somebody who knows firsthand what happens when grown adults try to make their little kids take care of their outed fifis. Not a hole. Forcing your kids to show that kind of affection when they don't want to can cause resentment towards the people forcing them to do so. He's still super little and unfiltered, meaning that they act on themselves instead of other people. He enjoys cuddling with mom more, so he doesn't want to cuddle with dad. And I'm sure the same thing goes for wrestling. You can't force your kid to show affection in a way that doesn't make them comfortable. I hope that made sense. Either way, not a hole. One of the worst things you can do as a parent, outside whole other level abuse, is to force a child to hug/kiss anyone. Not the a-hole. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for saying I don't care about making things better? I, 16 female, live with my dad and his family. My mom died last year. I was raised mostly by her for 10 years because when I was 5, she and my dad broke up and he moved across country to be with his now wife. I only know this because it's pretty coincidental that he left the state and moved in with her very fast, considering the move happened mere weeks after he moved out of mine and my mom's. Maybe I'm wrong, but I was never dumb. It's clear he left to be with his current wife. I saw him for 3 weeks in the summer and every other spring break until I moved in after my mom died. I've got to be honest, I didn't want to move. I wanted to move in with my grandparents who still live in my home state. But my dad insisted I needed to live with family, so now I live with him and his wife, plus her 2 kids and their 3 kids together. My stepsister is the same age as me, and she's upset I don't call her my sister, because she always called me her sister, and she fights me on it, which my dad gets involved in. He has tried to get me to accept the family more now than ever. I have told him I am not interested, and I just want to go home. Because I didn't adjust in the last 11 months, he wants us to do family therapy. I have told him I'm just not interested. He said it's not fair to push everyone away. I told him he was the one who left when I was 5 and that none of them were exactly my family because they were mostly strangers up until I moved in, and honestly, my dad has been mostly a stranger. I stayed with him so little and had such little communication with him. I don't care about having a better relationship. I would rather be home with the family I know, who were willing and able to take me. I would still have many friends around me too. My dad got mad the other night because he told me he had booked a session and my response was okay. He told me he wants me to help make things better in the family. I told him I don't care about making things better because I don't think of us as a family. I lost my nuclear family. I know we're supposed to be grateful for who we have and all that crap, but they have never felt like my family. Not even my dad. I barely remember when he lived with us. Barely remember seeing him more than once or twice a year, and I don't need or want him. Am I the a-hole? My mom never said a bad word about my dad. She never discouraged the relationship. But after a point, I did grow tired of going out to see strangers. I had no real relationship with my dad. And to put it into perspective, I asked him to move back home, closer to me basically, when I was maybe 8, and he told me he couldn't leave his family. So, no, I don't care about having a relationship with him. I want out. I am willing to do whatever to get out. But we will never be a family. More added info and a kinda update. It's late, so I'm not replying to everyone. Plus, there is a lot of you, and I do appreciate that. Like a lot. I asked my dad about individual therapy like many of you suggested, and he said no. He said it would not help if he and the others weren't involved, so there's that. I also never went along with living here, but I was given no choice. My grandparents tried, and I know they spoke to the woman/social worker who told me I needed to live with him because he is my father and my parent, blah blah blah. I made it very clear I did not want to live with him, but that held no weight with the decision. Now for the top comments. No a-holes here. You're just a kid who's been dealt a crap hand. I don't blame you for being angry and not wanting to put in the work to make this family function. I don't blame your dad for wanting to make it work either. He may have made some really big mistakes, but it sounds very much like he loves you. Go to therapy, if only because you're a teenage girl and that crap is hard enough on its own. I know, I used to be one. I would ask for individual therapy for a bit before family therapy becomes a thing though. It would give you a moment to work through some of your crap before you've got to work through the family stuff. No, dude. He could have tried to make it better before her mom died, but he only visited her so often. He's only trying now that she's dead. I doubt his reasons for doing so are as noble as you make them out to be. Family therapy still might be a good call, though. It might take a therapist to listen to how Opie is feeling and convince her father that what he's trying to push on her isn't actually what she needs right now. Not the a-hole. I'm so sad for you that you weren't allowed to move in with your grandparents. I mean, your mom died, and then your dad made you move across the country to stay with people you only know from spending a few weeks with them every year. Far from friends and other family that lived closer to where you lived with your mom. Maybe use the therapy session to talk about how upset you are because you were forced to move away from your remaining family and had to change schools, and everybody in your father's family appeared to think you should have adjusted by now. I feel the same. I know and love my grandparents. They're people I have spent time with all the time since I was a baby. I grew up seeing them every single week, except for weeks I was with my dad. And now I'm with a man I haven't really known since I was 5, who has a whole bunch of family I don't really know, and they expect me to love them and want them in my life when I would gladly never see them again and be with my real family. Maybe. I was thinking I would just sit there quietly and let everyone else talk, but that might get the point across more. Thank you. I'm so sorry you have to deal with this at all. You have been catapulted to a whole new world that you feel like you don't belong. It basically is. The thing is, maybe if I had seen them more before, I would feel some sort of attachment, but I could never see them again and it wouldn't hurt and I wouldn't miss them, not even my dad. It was a chore the last 2 years when my mom was alive to visit him. Not the a-hole. Your dad and his family need to realize that real life is not the Brady Bunch. Maybe therapy will help him see that what he's doing isn't really helping you. It's understandable that you don't think of these strangers as an immediate happy family. Maybe, if he's open to letting you go back to your grandparents, you agree to travel more often to see him and spend time with him. Otherwise, he risks you cutting him off completely the minute you turn 18, and that would be sad. He obviously loves you if he's willing to go to therapy to fix this. I would agree to that, to get home, to get back to my family. I just want to go home. If he keeps me here, once I do more home, he can forget about ever seeing me again. I know that sounds childish and immature, but I don't feel enough closeness that I would want to keep a relationship after everything he has done, regardless of him loving me. I do think he loves me. It's just he hasn't given me so many reasons to love him. Now for the second story. Am I the a-hole for telling my biological parents that I don't care for them and never will after my adoptive parents passed away? I'm a teenage boy in senior year of high school. My bio mom and dad gave me away as a toddler when they were extremely poor to make the raising of my sisters, their 3 daughters, easier. Great form from the people who should love you like no other, right? I lived with my lovely adoptive parents, an elderly couple, from ages 6 to 16, until they died weeks apart from each other. After my adoptive mom and dad both passed away, I had to go back to the same kids' shelter for a few months. The shelter had already been in contact with my bio parents about potentially taking me back, but there were conditions. We had to simulate living together for a few weeks. If that was successful, I could stay with them longer until I left high school, entered the workforce, or began tertiary study and had enough cash from part-time work. I've been living with my bio parents and my sisters for over a year, and I'm nearly 18. I really don't like the group of them. They see me as a nuisance or some sort of a troublemaker, given my self-reliance and tendency to stick to myself and my friends. They are blatant in treating my older sisters, who are in their 20s, better than I. My mom and dad give them a monthly allowance, on top of the welfare allowance they already get for their studies, drive them to and from college, pay more attention to them, and just treats them better than me, their 4th child. They don't give me an allowance even though they clearly can, nor do they spend that much time with me. I've pointed out the unfairness to them and they deny they love their daughters more than me. They say it's equal, and that I simply don't demand more from them, which they apparently love about me. But I've realized long ago that they're lying. They don't see much hope in a waste of time like me. They even called me that when I told them I wanted to work in construction after doing hands-on training, in comparison to my sisters who are lawyers and doctors-to-be. Over time, I've stopped participating in house duties, started and I'm preparing to move out to live with friends, packing and everything. I'm nearly an adult. My parents have noticed this, as have my sisters, and have grilled me on it one evening when I was packing my clothes. So, I simply told them that I know they see me as a mistake of theirs, and I'm moving out to stay out of their lives. They asked me what I was talking about, and I just couldn't take their faking it anymore. So I told them that I know they didn't care that much for me, and I don't care of any of them either, and I never will anymore. My mother burst into tears. My sisters just scoffed and rolled their eyes, and my dad yelled at me to apologize to all 5 of them. But I couldn't look at them anymore, so I just went to another room to cool off. It's been a few days now, and I'm itching to get out of here. But I'm thinking it might be childish of me to do this. Am I the a-hole for saying what I said to my biological parents about my lack of love for them? Now, for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I'm so sorry that you have endured so much rejection and loss. These are horrible conditions for a child to grow up in. I don't think you were wrong for speaking truth to power, but I do believe that once you've moved out, you won't get much, if any, support from these people anymore. So, it will be a hard road for you. Here's my 2 cents about a career in construction. You can go on a site as a laborer, but try to get into a union apprenticeship soon in a construction trade you like: electrician, carpenter, sheet metal worker, etc. Your earnings will be much greater, and I think you will benefit by the training. A construction trade is a very decent way to make a living, but I will warn you that most people in construction do start to have physical problems by age 45 or so, and therefore you should plan all along to move into construction management, estimating, or something more of a desk basis. Learn all you can about the mathematical or computer aspects of the business. Your future is bright. Always remember the kindness of your adoptive parents. Thank you for your kind words and advice. I'll keep it in mind for sure. Architect here. Construction careers can be great options, but definitely go to the actual certified trades route or construction management. There is more flexibility there for you to move into management roles, which are easier on the body if you ever develop physical issues. The millennials have experienced that building some level of flexibility into a career is very advantageous in a way that earlier generations often don't think of. Obviously, you are Gen Z, but I think it will still apply to you. Not the a-hole. The first mistake was not involving a therapist at the very beginning. You were a minor, so this is not your mistake. Losing your adoptive parents like that must have been traumatic, and everything that came after has been just as difficult. Understandably, your relationship with bio family is dysfunctional. You get to choose who you want in your life. If you want to create a bond with bio family, I would only do it if a family therapist were fully involved in the process. There's too much to address on your own. If you don't want to have them in your life, that's fine, and you should feel able to make that decision guilt-free. Being blood-related doesn't mean we owe people anything. That's what we call gaslighting. Your family is gaslighting you to stay so they can continue to emotionally neglect you. It's clear that they've been very neglectful of you from the start. I mean, they gave you away for F's sake. In my opinion, you should leave and never look back, because you're right, they do not care about you. Nope, I think they're gaslighting/projecting to avoid the guilt they should be feeling. OP is a living reminder of all their failures, and they're displacing their anger on him, not the a-hole. I'm so sorry, OP. You deserve better. Not the a-hole. You absolutely aren't selfish whatsoever. You are an adult, and you get to decide who it's worth living in your life. Now, for the last story, am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my dad's retirement home fees? My parents divorced when I was a baby, but my mom encouraged him to have a good relationship with me. However, my dad was never interested in that. He'd come see me for a few hours on the weekends and call it a day. He wasn't a constant in my life, but I liked him and enjoyed his visits. He remarried shortly after his divorce and had 2 more kids that I would play with occasionally. As I was growing up, he and I had arguments about how he'd treat my siblings and how he treated me. My dad adored his other kids and he'd take them on trips, go to their school events and pay for whatever they needed. I invited him to all my school plays, graduations, etc. He never came. I won't lie, it hurt. I was his first child, and he didn't seem interested in me. Plus, he was very vocal about his dislike towards my mom, something that I hated because she was the one taking care of me. When I went to college, he agreed to pay half of the expenses. I was thankful for this, and I thanked him each time he'd send a check. He came to my graduation ceremony, and when it was over, said that his responsibilities towards me were over, and he didn't owe me anything anymore. He didn't need to say it, but it was a goodbye. It broke my heart. He didn't return my calls or reach out to me in the following years. Yesterday, I received a call from my brother telling me that my dad's health had deteriorated and the best option for him would be a retirement home. His second wife divorced him too. My dad is on the older side, so I wasn't surprised. My brother spent like half an hour on the phone describing this place that would cover his needs, make him comfortable. Turns out this place is expensive as hell, and he wants us to pay for his stay there. Monthly, I'd be paying around $2,000, so would my siblings. I told him I couldn't afford to pay that amount monthly, much less during a pandemic. He didn't take it well, and shortly after, I received a call from my sis demanding an explanation. I told her that I didn't make enough money to support myself and pay my share for his stay in the home, to which she said that I was ridiculous because I wasn't married nor had any kids. So basically, where was all my money going then? I told them that we could look into other retirement homes or hire a nurse. But apparently, I'm being cruel and ungrateful because our dad deserves the best care he can get, and the home is convenient for all of us. Close enough to our own houses so we can visit him or be there in case of an emergency. I told them that if they were not going to make an effort and look into other options, then I wouldn't either, and I wouldn't pay my share. Before I hung up, my sister told me she'd sue me for negligence. Like, WTF? I don't know how to feel about all of this. He did pay for half of my college tuition, but he was a detached parent who made it very clear that I was more of an economic burden than a child he loved. Am I being ungrateful? Should I suck it up and pay? Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Why would your step-siblings expect you to pay an equal share for his care when you did not receive an equal share of his love and attention growing up? They don't seem particularly bothered by your exclusion either, so they can figure it out themselves. Not the a-hole. 1. Either your sister won't sue or won't be successful. 2. You had no obligations to explain why you wouldn't pay. Remember that the next time that you are speaking with siblings. The less that you say, the better. 3. Your dad made a concrete decision to end his financial support of you. Time for you to return the favor. Again, you need not explain your reasoning on this point to anyone at any time. And 4. Siblings picked the home, which means that they picked the price. The price is their responsibility. If you pay any amount, expect aggressive communications as to why you aren't paying more. No good can come of it, and it will likely lead a lot of grief for you. Thank you. I'm worried about the lawsuit. Is it possible for her to actually sue me? Is there any leg ground to it? I can't see what she'd sue you for. You've done nothing illegal in saying you won't pay your share, unless there's some legal agreement you haven't mentioned. Don't waste your money on a lawyer unless you receive papers. Do not give your siblings or the retirement home a single solitary cent. Did your father own a house, a car, have social security or some kind of retirement, 401k, IRA? Who has power of attorney? Who makes medical decisions? Who controls your father's money? Your half-siblings chose a place that cost way more than $6,000 a month, since I assume your father himself is also using his retirement income to pay. I'm so sorry to be so suspicious and cynical, but I'd like to see a copy of your father's will and know who he's named as executor. I'd also like to know if he's named one of your half-siblings as the payable on death on his bank accounts. I'd also like to see an accounting of where his money is presently being spent. I don't think this is merely about keeping dad safe and comfortable. I think it's about your half-siblings maximizing their inheritance by trying to guilt you into covering your father's expenses. You owe nobody anything. Not the a-hole. Don't give them a cent. I never thought of all that. My dad isn't rich by any extent. So I'm guessing that if he is paying something, it's the bare minimum. I'm pretty sure I'm not included in his will, and I have no idea who's responsible for his money. Probably my sister. She's his second child. Now that I think about it, he did get hit economically when he divorced his second wife, and maybe that's why they're reaching out to me for money. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.